Here's a meditation on the virgin birth of Jesus, um, which is one of the three central mysteries of the Christian faith. So the basic idea is that Mary was a mere mortal. Mary was just a human being. Mary was not a god, and she was not an angel. She was just a person. Um, and I personally, for what it's worth, I don't accept the doctrine that Mary of Mary's immaculate conception. She that she was born without sin, because that would make her into a god. Mary, the apocryphal lore around Mary is that she was a very special child from the start. They took her to the temple, and she actually like went into the Holy of Holies. Like she was clearly a very magical, special person. Like Mary, Mary kind of gets outshined by Christ in a lot of ways because she was essentially a Buddha, right? So like Christ was more than a Buddha. Christ is not an avatar or a Buddha. He is both. He is Jesus Christ. Um, Mary was um, even Orthodox Christians say that Mary was basically sinless, like that she didn't really sin, and that she accepted the task of giving birth to God. I mean, like imagine, um, being just a human being and being given this task to not just carry God in your womb, but then also sort of raise him and then watch him die, and all this. Um, so there's a lot to say about the virgin birth, but I think the point that I really want to drive home that is of sort of eternal fascination to me, and again, that's part of what's so great about mysteries is that they're just eternally fascinating. You don't figure them out. You can just kind of comment on them, let them sort of influence your life, but you can't figure them out. Is that if Mary gave birth to Jesus, and Jesus was God, that means that since Jesus was identical to God, that Mary gave birth to God. And that is kind of counterintuitive because God is absolutely transcendent above God's creation, right? So how could a being who is part of creation give birth to the creator of that very creation? Now, what's kind of interesting about this idea, though I can't fully make sense of it, is that it actually squares fairly well with the work of someone like Feuerbach, where like Feuerbach, who was a very important German thinker, kind of between Hegel and Marx. For him, it was like, well, he thought he was overcoming Christianity with the idea that God is nothing more than our idea of God, or something like that. That God is sort of that God ultimately only exists within the human heart. And this is a really nuanced point because it sounds like reducing the divine to psychologism. They're like, oh, it's just in our imaginations. But you have to one has to sort of break free from the idea that like just our imaginations is some like limited place. That there's like, oh, well, it's just that psychology can explain it then or something. But like psychology can't explain our imaginations. Like our imaginations are our contact with the imaginal realm, which is like an incredibly sort of powerful and mysterious place that we don't understand. We don't understand why we have an imaginal realm. So, um, uh, so there's something to this mystery that she gave birth to God Himself, and it's always of interest to me also that, given that Christ had no human father, that in some sense he was a clone of Mary, right? Like God did not, I don't think, give Mary DNA, right? So Mary gave birth to just Mary again, her twin, essentially, you could say, um, who was then given the gift of godhood by the Holy Spirit. And I'd like to go more deeply into the work of Bulgakov at some point, but so Bulgakov is the sort of eminent 20th century Russian theologian who was, I think, the sort of most extreme. He was one of a couple of theologians who developed the discipline of sophiology, and his version of it is a lot more, I don't know, as far as I can tell, a lot deeper than some of the other versions. But his thought is that the thing to keep in mind basically with this is that Mary, that there is a human capacity to sort of like be the wick upon which the divine flame can rest, and that not everything can do that. Like that God could not have been incarnated as like a lion or something, or a tree. That there's something about profane human nature that makes us like potential like recipients of the Holy Spirit. Um, so there's my comment on Mary.